Sleep has always been my elusive companion, but that night, it wasn't the usual restlessness or the phantom weight of forgotten deadlines that pulled me from the depths. It was a silence, a wrongness. My eyes snapped open in the absolute dark of our master bedroom. The digital clock on Mark's nightstand cast a faint, red glow. 3:07 a.m. I didn't need to reach out. The space beside me was a cold expanse of Egyptian cotton, empty. My heart gave a single, hard thud against my ribs. Mark never got up at night. He prided himself on being a solid 8-hour man, a pillar of routine even in sleep. Mark. My whisper was swallowed by the plush carpet and heavy drapes. No answer. I sat up. The silence, now a physical thing, pressing in on my ears. Maybe he was in the kitchen, getting water, but there was no sliver of light from under our door, no distant clink of glass. A slow, cold trickle of unease started in my stomach. I slid out of bed, my bare feet silent on the floor. The hallway was a tunnel of shadow. Our house in the San Marino neighborhood, usually a source of pride with its tasteful wainscoting and family photos, felt alien, its familiar corners holding secrets. Then I saw it, a faint, yellow line of light etched on the dark hardwood floor. It came from under Lily's door, at the far end of the hall. He's checking on her to the reasonable part of my brain supplied. She had a bad dream. He's being a good dad, but the cold in my stomach solidified. He wouldn't have closed the door all the way. He'd leave it ajar, just in case. And the light, it was too dim for the main overhead. It was her butterfly night light, the one she insisted on, but which cast long, dancing shadows. I moved without sound, drawn by that thin line of light. My hand hovered over the cool brass knob. I could hear the low murmur of a voice, Mark's voice, but the tone, it was all wrong. It wasn't the gentle, sing-song cadence he used for bedtime stories about adventurous puppies or brave princesses. This was lower, flatter, almost clinical. My breath hitched. I leaned closer, my ear nearly touching the wood. And you know how important it is to keep our family strong. Lily, strong families have secrets. They protect each other from the outside world. A pause. I could hear my own blood rushing in my ears. Lily didn't answer. There was no sleepy mumble, no rustle of bedding in response. The kids at school, the teachers, they wouldn't understand our special bond. Mark continued, his voice a soft, insidious drone. They'd try to break us apart. They'd tell mommy lies. And you know what happens then, don't you? Another terrifying silence. Mommy would get very, very sad. She might even get sick. The sadness could break her. And then our beautiful home, your room, all your toys, it would all go away. It would be gone because of a silly little secret. I felt a wave of nausea, so violent I had to press a hand against the wall to steady myself. What secret? What was he talking about? So, we keep it right here. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Just between you and me. Our little fortress. Your daddy's good girl, aren't you? You protect the fortress. I heard a small, choked sound, a sob, stifled before it could fully form. It was the sound of a child trying to disappear. Rage, white hot and blinding, surged up my throat. My fingers curled around the doorknob. I wanted to throw the door open, to scream, to shatter this horrible, whispered performance. But something held me back, a sharp, primal instinct deeper than anger. The image of Lily's face, pale and terrified in the butterfly light. The absolute stillness of her small form under the covers that I could now picture through the door. She was pretending to be asleep. She was frozen. If I burst in now, he'd have an excuse. Honey, you startled me. I was just soothing her. She had a nightmare, and Lily, the pressure on her would double. She'd be caught between us, his words echoing in her head. Mommy would get sick. It would all go away. The metallic taste of swallowed fury filled my mouth. Slowly, carefully, I released the knob. My hands were trembling. I took one step back, then another, retreating down the dark hallway like a ghost, leaving that line of yellow light burning like a brand behind my eyelids. Back in our bedroom, I slid under the covers, my body rigid. I forced my breathing to slow, to deepen. Minutes later, I heard the soft click of Lily's door opening and closing. Footsteps padded down the hall. The bed dipped as Mark got in. He let out a contented sigh, the sigh of a man who has performed a necessary duty. He shifted, rolling towards me. I kept my eyes closed, my face turned towards the window. I felt his gaze on me. Sophia, he whispered, his voice back to its normal, warm baritone. You awake? Hun. I made a soft, non-committal noise, feigning the edges of sleep. Just went to check on Lilybug. He murmured, his hand coming to rest on my hip. His touch, once a comfort, now felt like a claim. Thought I heard her stir. She was out cold, though, sleeping like an angel. The lie was so smooth, so effortless. It stole the air from my lungs. I could feel the scream building inside my chest, a silent pressure cooker of horror. I managed to move my head slightly on the pillow, a weak imitation of someone half asleep listening. I breathed out. He squeezed my hip. Go back to sleep. Sweetheart, big day tomorrow. He rolled over, his back to me, and within minutes, his breathing settled into the rhythmic, untroubled pattern of a man with a clear conscience. I lay there, staring into the darkness, seeing only that line of light, hearing only that cold, manipulative whisper. The man sleeping beside me was a stranger. The life I thought I had, the successful husband, the beautiful home in one of LA's best neighborhoods. The perfect little family was a painted set, and the paint was cracking, revealing something rotten underneath. My mind raced, a frantic, terrified animal in a cage. What had he done? What was the secret? The questions screamed inside my skull, but louder than the questions was a new, cold certainty. This was not a one-time thing. This was a pattern. And my daughter, my bright, beautiful Lily who loved to paint sunflowers and had just lost her first tooth, was living in a fortress of fear built by the man who was supposed to protect her. The rest of the night was a waking nightmare. I watched the red numbers on the clock change with agonizing slowness. 4:18 a.m., 5:42 a.m. The first gray light of a California dawn began to bleed around the edges of the blackout curtains. Finally, at 6:30, Mark's alarm chirped. He stretched, yawned loudly, and got up, heading to the shower as if it were any other Tuesday. I waited until I heard the water running before I moved. My body felt stiff, my eyes gritty and dry. I walked to Lily's room. Her door was open. She was already awake, sitting up in bed, clutching Mr. Hops, her worn-out bunny, her big blue eyes, so like her father's, met mine. There was no smile, no sleepy good morning, just a watchful, hollow look that was all wrong on an 8-year-old face. Morning. Sweet pea, I said, my voice sounding strangely normal. Sleep okay? She nodded. A quick, jerky movement. Her gaze dropped to Mr. Hops. I had a dream. She mumbled into the stuffed animal's ear. My heart clenched. A bad dream. She shrugged. A tiny, defeated gesture. Just a dream. I sat on the edge of her bed, fighting the urge to pull her into my arms and never let go. I was afraid if I held her too tight, she'd break, or she'd pull away. Both possibilities were unbearable. You know you can tell me anything. Right, Lily, I said, carefully smoothing her hair. Anything at all, even scary things from dreams. She looked at me then, a flicker of something desperate in her eyes. It was there and gone in an instant, replaced by a dull blankness. It's okay. Mommy, Daddy said dreams aren't real. They can't hurt you. The words, a parrot of his late-night poison, hung in the air between us. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. Breakfast. My favorite girls. Mark's cheerful voice boomed from the kitchen downstairs. The smell of coffee and bacon drifted up. The picture of domestic bliss. Lily scrambled out of bed, escaping the conversation. Coming, Daddy. I followed her down, each step feeling like I was walking on glass. In the bright, sun-drenched kitchen, Mark stood at the stove, flipping pancakes. He was dressed for work in a crisp blue shirt, his smile wide and genuine. He looked like a magazine ad for the perfect father. There she is, he said, turning that dazzling smile on me. He came over, wrapped an arm around my waist, and planted a kiss on my temple. You look tired. Sophomore didn't sleep well. I looked into his clear, concerned eyes. The actor was fully in his role. The horror of the night before was locked away behind a vault door. I felt a surreal disconnect, as if I were the one who had dreamed the whole thing. A little restless, I managed, pulling away to pour myself a cup of coffee. My hand was steady, a small miracle. Must have been something I ate. He chuckled, turning back to the pancakes. Told you that sushi from Spago was risky for a weeknight. He slid a perfect golden pancake onto Lily's plate, drawing a smiley face with the syrup bottle. For my best girl, Lily smiled, a small, fragile thing. She ate quietly, not meeting my eyes. I sat at the table, sipping my coffee, watching them. The scene was perfect. The handsome father, the lovely child, the beautiful kitchen. But I saw the cracks now. I saw the way Lily's shoulders tensed slightly when Mark leaned over her to refill her orange juice. I saw the practiced ease of his affection, a performance for an audience of one me. Mark talked about his upcoming meeting, a funny story from the golf course, the new Tesla model he was eyeing. His world was intact. Mine had been vaporized at 7 a.m. As he finished his coffee and grabbed his briefcase, he came over to me. All right, I'm off. Big merger today. He kissed me, his lips firm and familiar. Love you. Don't work too hard on those mood boards today. Love you too. The automatic response left my lips, tasting like ash. He ruffled Lily's hair. Bye, Lilybug. Be good for Mommy. Remember our talk. Lily froze, a piece of pancake halfway to her mouth. Yes, Daddy. And with a final, confident smile, Mark Carter, my husband of 10 years, walked out the door to conquer his world, leaving me alone in the ruins of mine. The silence after the garage door closed was deafening. I looked at Lily. She was staring at her plate, the smiley face melting into a syrupy blur. Lily, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. What did Daddy talk to you about last night? Her head shot up, panic flashing in her eyes. The look was gone in a heartbeat, replaced by a careful, rehearsed neutrality, just about being good and strong for the family. She pushed her plate away. Can I be excused? I want to go draw. She didn't wait for an answer. She took her plate to the sink, her movements too careful, too adult, and then she was gone, fleeing to the sanctuary of her room. I sat at the table, the cheerful morning sun mocking me. The coffee was cold in my cup. The cracks weren't just in the facade anymore. They were inside me, a seismic fault line splitting my soul in two. On one side was Sophia Carter, the devoted wife, the trusting partner. On the other was a raw, new creature, a mother whose only thought was a silent, screaming vow. I will find out what you did. I will burn your fortress to the ground. But I had to be smart. I had to be careful. The man I married was not just a liar. He was a builder of fortresses, a wielder of silent weapons. And the first battle, I knew with icy clarity, was to make him believe his audience was still fooled. The performance had to go on. For now, I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over my contacts. I needed an ally, someone who lived in the real world, not this curated nightmare. I tapped on a name, Amanda Rossi, my best friend since college, a divorce attorney who'd seen it all. The phone rang twice before she picked up, her voice husky with mourning and a hint of amusement. Sophia, do you know what time it is? Did you finally decide to leave that gorgeous husband of yours and need my professional services? A sob caught in my throat. I swallowed it. Hard. Amanda, I said, my voice terrifyingly calm. I need to talk. Not on the phone. In person. As soon as you can. The levity vanished from her voice instantly. Lawyer mode clicked in. Where and when? Your office. 10 o'clock. I'll clear my schedule. Sophia, are you safe? I looked at the closed door of my daughter's room. I looked at the empty chair where my husband had Saturday, smiling and lying. No, I said quietly, but we are for now. See you at 10. I ended the call. The performance was on. Sophia Carter, the unsuspecting wife, had a play date to get her daughter ready for. But inside, the new creature was awake, watching, and planning its first move. The midnight shadow had revealed itself. Now, I had to learn how to fight in the dark. Amanda Rossi's office in downtown Los Angeles was a study in controlled power. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a roofless, sun-drenched view of the city, a stark contrast to the plush, soundproofed interior where lives were quietly dismantled and reassembled. No family photos, no sentimental art, just sharp lines, a formidable desk, and the quiet hum of a high-end espresso machine. I sat in a chair that was deceptively comfortable, my hands clasped so tightly in my lap my knuckles were white. I dropped Lily at school, her quiet dot by, Mommy, echoing in my ears, and driven here on autopilot. Amanda didn't offer platitudes. She pushed a cup of espresso towards me. Drink, then talk. Start from the beginning. Leave nothing out. Her directness was an anchor. I told her everything. The 3 a.m. wake-up, the line of light, the cold, flat tone of Mark's voice, the specific, venomous phrases. Mommy would get sick. It would all go away. Our little fortress. Lily's choked sob, his seamless lie at breakfast, her practiced neutrality. I spoke in a low, monotone voice, fearing that if I let any emotion in, I would shatter. Amanda listened, her dark eyes missing nothing, her pen jotting occasional notes on a pristine legal pad. When I finished, the silence was heavy. She took a slow sip of her own coffee. Okay, she said finally. First, breathe. Sophia, you're not crazy. What you heard was emotional and psychological abuse. It's grooming behavior, isolating her, making her the keeper of a secret that burdens her and bonds her to him. It's insidious, and it's calculated. Hearing the words spoken aloud, labeled by a professional, was both validating and horrifying. Grooming. For what? You don't think he's... Physically. I couldn't finish the sentence. The goal isn't always physical, Amanda said, her voice grim. Sometimes the goal is control, ownership, creating a perfect, compliant doll who validates him. The special bond he talked about. That's the language of a narcissist creating a source of supply. Lily is his captive audience, but she leaned forward. We cannot rule anything out, and the psychological damage is already being done. Look at her behavior, the withdrawnness, the parroting of his phrases. What do I do? The question was a plea. You do exactly what you've started to do. You become the world's best actress. You smile. You make his coffee. You ask about his merger. You do not, under any circumstances, let him know you're on to him. Men like Mark, they're masters of the preemptive strike. If he feels his control slipping, he'll escalate. He'll turn it on you, make you look unstable, or he'll tighten his grip on Lily. I can't just do nothing. I hissed, the anger breaking through. You're not doing nothing. You're gathering intelligence. This is a war. And right now, he holds the high ground, the resources, and the element of surprise. We need to change that. She tapped her pen. You need evidence, not just your word against his. He'll spin it as a misunderstanding, you being hysterical, mishearing a private father-daughter moment. The recording in my head isn't enough. It's a start for me, to know what we're dealing with. It's not enough for a court, or for child protective services, or to ensure you get full custody and keep that monster away from her. Her words were brutal, necessary. We need tangible proof. Patterns. Can you access your home security system logs? Wi-Fi router history, his old phone or laptop. I thought of Mark's study, his domain. He has a personal laptop he never lets anyone touch. Password protected. His phone has a fingerprint lock. Of course it does, Amanda said dryly. Start with what you can access. The family cloud storage. Check photo and document timestamps. Look for anomalies. Does he back up his phone to a family computer? Any old devices in a drawer? Kids' tech, like tablets or smart speakers, sometimes have sync features. The smart speaker. Lily's old .joy sound. She used to play music in her room. My breath caught. Lily has an old smart speaker. It has a basic record story function she used when she was little. It uploads to a cloud folder linked to my account. Amanda's eyes sharpened. That's a start. Check it. But be careful. Use a private browser. Clear your history. Do it when you're sure he's not around. Do not do it on any device he might have access to or can monitor. She spent the next 20 minutes drilling me on operational security, using the library computer or buying a cheap pay-as-you-go tablet with cash, creating a new encrypted email she would use to communicate with me, changing all my personal passwords. You're in spy mode now. Sophia, she said, not unkindly. Trust no one. Assume he's monitoring everything until you know otherwise. Your goal is to become a ghost in your own home. I left her office, feeling both terrified and galvanized. The fog of shock had lifted, replaced by a cold, clear purpose. I wasn't just a betrayed wife. I was an operative gathering evidence to save my child. The next few days were an exercise in surreal tension. I played my part. I laughed at Mark's jokes about his killer merger. I made his favorite herb-crusted salmon. I asked about his golf handicap. I was Sophia Carter, slightly distracted perhaps, but otherwise the supportive, slightly boring housewife he expected. Meanwhile, I watched. I saw how he always positioned himself between Lily and the door, how his playful tickles would continue just a second too long after she squirmed away, how every compliment was conditional, that you're so smart, just like Daddy, or that what a beautiful picture. You get your talent from me. One evening, after Mark was in his study for a work call, I saw Lily sitting at the kitchen island, a blank piece of paper in front of her. She loved to draw. Her sketchbook was usually filled with fantastical creatures and sunny landscapes. Now, she just stared at the emptiness, thinking of drawing something. Sweetie, I asked, keeping my voice light. She jumped, as if caught doing something wrong. I don't know what to draw. How about a family picture? We could all be superheroes. I suggested, a knot in my stomach. Her face closed off. I don't like drawing people anymore. She slid off the stool. I think I'll go read. Later that night, after Lily was in bed, I approached Mark. He was scrolling through financial news on the couch. I sat down, leaving a careful space between us. I'm a little worried about Lily. I began, watching his face. He didn't look up from his tablet. Why? She seems fine. She just seems quiet. She told me she doesn't like drawing people anymore. That's a big shift for her. Now, he looked at me, his expression a perfect blend of concern and mild exasperation. Sophia. She's 8. Their interests change every 5 minutes. Last week it was dinosaurs. This week it's probably coding or something. Don't micromanage her creativity. He reached over and patted my knee. You're home with her all day. You overthink these things. Maybe you should get back to some of your design work. Keep your mind busy. There it was. The gentle dismissal. The subtle redirection of blame onto me, the anxious, idle wife with too much time on her hands. Maybe you're right, I said, forcing a smile. It's just, I noticed you've been spending a lot of time with her at night recently. Is everything okay? Is she having bad dreams? His eyes narrowed, just for a fraction of a second. Then the mask of easy confidence slipped back on. Just being a present father. Han, all the studies say quality time is crucial, especially father-daughter time. It builds her self-esteem. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to an intimate murmur. I know we've been busy. Maybe I've neglected our time a bit. 2. How about a date night this weekend? That new French place in Beverly Hills. It was a masterstroke, a reward for my concern, an offer of intimacy to disarm me, and a subtle reminder of the luxurious life he provided. The life that, according to him, would all go away if I rocked the boat. That sounds lovely, I heard myself say. The next day, when Mark was at the gym and Lily at a play date, I acted. I used an old tablet I dug out of a drawer, one I was sure he'd forgotten about. Following Amanda's instructions, I connected to a public Wi-Fi network from a coffee shop parking lot. My hands shook as I logged into the family cloud account. I navigated to the .joy sound recordings folder. There were dozens of files, mostly labeled .lily story 2021 or .nursery rhymes. My heart sank. Then I saw them. A cluster of files from the last 6 months with nonsensical names, like .abd2, 23.wave, or .system_archive.op. They didn't belong. I downloaded one, abd2, 23.wave. I plugged in headphones, my pulse roaring in my ears. The first few seconds were silence, then the soft rustle of bedding, then Mark's voice, low and clear. And when you feel scared, you just remember, Daddy's the only one who really understands you. Everyone else, even Mommy, they want you to be something else. They want to change you, but I love you just the way you are. My special girl, our little secret. I stopped it. I couldn't breathe. I scrolled. Another file, dated just 2 weeks ago. You see how Mommy gets when she's tired. All sharp and impatient. That's why we don't bother her with our special talks. We protect her from being sad. The recordings were snippets, often cut off, but the pattern was unmistakable. A systematic erosion of my bond with my daughter, a glorification of his own role, and the constant, oppressive theme of the secret. I emailed the files to Amanda's secure address from my new account, with a single line, proof of the fortress. Her reply came an hour later, that it's something. It shows inappropriate enmeshment and manipulation, but it's not a smoking gun. He's careful. He's never explicit about any action. It's all emotional. We need more. We need to see the financials. We need to understand if there's a plan B. Men like him always have an exit strategy, and it usually involves hiding assets. That night, the dinner table felt like a tribunal. Mark was expansive, talking about buying a boat. Think of the family memories. Sophomore, sailing to Catalina. Lily pushed her pasta around her plate. It sounds expensive, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. What with the new car talk and the kitchen remodel you mentioned. He waved a hand. Don't worry your pretty head about the finances. I've got it handled. Investments are doing great. I'm locking in some great yields in a few offshore. Well, boring tax stuff. He grinned, topping up my wine glass. Your job is to pick out the perfect galley color. After Lily was in bed, accidentally knocked a stack of mail off his desk in the study while looking for a stray earring. As I gathered it, my eyes scanned credit card statements, investment reports from firms I'd never heard of. One envelope, already opened, was from a bank in the Cayman Islands. The return address was discreet, but clear. My blood ran cold. Offshore, Amanda's warning echoed. Exit strategy. I heard his footsteps on the stairs and quickly stood up, the mail in my hands. Find it, he asked, filling the doorway. No, I said, smiling weakly. Must be in the bedroom. Just tidying up. I gestured with the mail in my hand. His eyes flicked to it, then back to my face. The smile didn't leave his eyes, but something in them hardened, just for an instant. It was the look of a chess player who sees an unexpected move from his opponent. Leave that. Sweetheart, he said, his voice smooth. I'll sort it. You look tired. Long day of tidying. The condescension was a velvet glove over an iron fist. He took the mail from my hands, his fingers brushing mine. A possessive, final gesture. You're right, I said, yawning. I am beat. Going to turn in. As I walked up the stairs, I could feel his gaze on my back. The performance was holding, but the cracks were showing. He was starting to sense a shift in the air, a subtle resistance where there was usually compliance. I lay in bed, listening to him move around his study below. The fortress had walls I was only beginning to see, emotional, financial, legal, and the keeper of the fortress was now watching, his instincts tingling. The unspoken fear was no longer just mine and Lily's. It was a three-way standoff in the dark. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that the next move would have to be mine, and it would have to be daring. The passive listening was over. It was time to go on the offensive. But how? Without triggering the collapse of everything. The question echoed in the dark, unanswered. The air in the house had changed. It was subtle, a shift in atmospheric pressure before a storm. Mark's casual condescension had a new, probing edge. His questions, once perfunctory, now felt like scans. You seem distracted lately. Sophia, he remarked over breakfast a few days later, not looking up from his Financial Times, spending a lot of time on that old tablet, rediscovering Angry Birds. The joke was a barb. He'd noticed the missing tablet. I kept my eyes on the toast I was buttering for Lily, just clearing out old photos, trying to organize. It's a mess. My voice was light, dismissive. You know me, a organizing binge every few months. The sound was non-committal, but it hung in the air. Well, don't get too absorbed. Lily misses you when you're glued to a screen. I miss her when she's trapped in a room with you. At the thought screamed inside me. I smiled at Lily. How about we go to the botanical gardens this afternoon? Just us girls. Lily's eyes lit up for a second, then flicked nervously to Mark. He smiled, a broad, approving grin. That's a wonderful idea. Honey, Lily, you'll love it. Take lots of pictures for Daddy. He was granting permission, framing himself as the benevolent overseer of our mother-daughter time. He was co-opting it, later, in the dappled sunlight of the gardens. With Lily momentarily chasing a butterfly, Amanda's voice was a tense whisper in my Bluetooth earpiece. The recordings are damning in context, but he's a slick bastard. No explicit threats, no admission of wrongdoing. It's all special talks and protecting mommy. A family court judge with a heavy father's rights bias could dismiss it as paternal overaffection. We need leverage. We need to crack open his digital life. He's watching me now. I murmured, pretending to admire a rose bush. I can feel it. Then it's time to be bold. Passive observation won't cut it. We need his passwords. We need into that laptop. It's biometric and password. It's a fortress. Every fortress has a blind spot. Amanda countered. Think, what does he care about more than his privacy? An idea. terrible and clear, formed. His image, his reputation. Exactly. Create a crisis he has to solve publicly. Something that forces him to log in front of you. Distracted. The plan was reckless. It made my stomach churn. But the memory of Lily's hollow eyes steeled me. The opportunity came that evening. Mark had a rare after-work charity gala for his firm, a black tie event where partners showed off their polished lives. I was his essential accessory. As he dressed, frowning at his tie in the mirror, I staged my crisis, using his desktop, the one he used for mundane family business. I logged into his rarely checked, public-facing LinkedIn account. With a few clumsy clicks, I changed his profile picture to a ridiculous, cartoonish avatar of a crying baby. Then, I drafted a post, set to publish in 20 minutes, filled with bizarre typos and emotional gibberish that read like a mental breakdown. That's so grateful for the mergers and acquisitions. Life is a journey. Sometimes the market is volatile. But family is my rock, especially my doubter. She is my everything. Hashtag blessed, hashtag struggling, hashtag personal journey. I left the draft unsaved, but open on the screen. Then, accidentally spilled a full glass of water next to the desktop's power strip. Not on it, but near enough for plausibility. I unplugged the strip with a dramatic gasp. Mark, I called out, panic expertly layered into my voice. Oh, God, Mark, come quick. He rushed in, tie half done. What? What's wrong? I think I fried your computer. I was just trying to plug in my phone charger. And the water, it sparked. I gestured wildly at the wet spot and the unplugged strip. I'm so sorry. And I was in the middle of something on LinkedIn for you. The firm's charity page wanted a partner quote, and I was drafting it. His face cycled through irritation, concern, and then dawning horror as the words .linkedin and .draft registered. His professional persona was his religion. A garbled, public post was blasphemy. Damn it. Sophia. He shoved past me, grabbing the laptop from his study, the sacred, password-protected one. He carried it to the kitchen island, his fingers flying over the keys. The biometric scanner flashed. He typed a password, his back to me, his body taut with urgency. My eyes, wide with faux distress, locked onto his fingers on the keyboard. Guardian hashtag 2023 star. He logged in, connected his phone's hotspot, and went straight to his LinkedIn. He saw the open draft. A muscle ticked in his jaw. Jesus Christ, this is a professional network, not Facebook. He deleted the draft with savage clicks, then checked his profile. The baby picture made him swear under his breath. He changed it back to his standard headshot, his movements rigid with controlled fury. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, I babbled, pouring him a scotch. I was just trying to help. I know how important this event is. He took the glass, drained half of it, and closed his eyes. When he opened them, the anger was smoothed into weary disappointment. It's fine. It's fixed. Just, maybe leave the professional stuff to me. Okay, sweetheart, stick to what you're good at. The patronizing dismissal was back, laced with a new certainty of my incompetence. Perfect. He finished his tie, gave me a perfunctory kiss on the forehead. Get ready. The car will be here in 40 minutes. The moment he left the room, I grabbed my own phone, my hands trembling not from fear, but from adrenaline. Guardian hashtag 2023 star. Guardian, the word he used while poisoning my daughter. My revulsion was a physical taste. I texted Amanda the password. Her reply was instant. Do not try to access it yourself. He may have keystroke loggers or alerts. We need a pro. I have someone. Be ready to create a window. The gala was a torture chamber of champagne and small talk. I smiled. I nodded. I clung to Mark's arm, playing the proud, vacant wife. All the while, my mind was screaming, Every time Mark checked his watch or his phone, I wondered if it was an alert. 2 days later, the window came. Mark had a mandatory, all-day off-site leadership retreat. No phones allowed. He grumbled, leaving his personal cell on his nightstand. Corporate mindfulness nonsense. The moment his car disappeared, I texted Amanda, clear for 8 hours. An hour later, a nondescript van parked down the street. A woman named Chloe, dressed like a cable technician, came to the door. She was all business, no small talk. She connected a sleek, unknown device to Mark's laptop via a port I didn't recognize. It'll clone the drive and bypass most local encryption, she said, her eyes on her own tablet as data streams flowed. We're looking for hidden partitions, encrypted containers, chat logs, financials, the fun stuff. While she worked, I paced. Lily was at school. The silence was oppressive. After 2 hours, Chloe whistled low. Okay, your husband is not a Boy Scout. He's got a partition drive with a whole separate OS. He uses an encrypted messaging app, not Signal or WhatsApp. Something more obscure. Chats are locally stored but heavily encrypted. He's also got a cryptocurrency wallet with a decent balance. And there's a cloud storage client syncing to a server not linked to your family account. She looked at me. We've got the data, but cracking the encrypted stuff will take time. The raw file structure and some metadata are gold, though shows clear intent to conceal. What about the other phone? I asked, pointing to the spare iPhone he kept in his desk drawer. An older model. Chloe picked it up, plugged it in. Not his main, but it's got activity. Probably a burner for his extracurriculars. She worked for a few minutes. It's clean of most apps, but there's a call log. One number repeated. Local area code. She read it out. I recognized it instantly. It was the landline for the gymnastics studio where Lily had taken classes last year. A young, pretty coach named Brittany worked there. Mark had always been very encouraging of Lily's gymnastics. The pieces, ugly and sharp, began to click together. The offshore accounts, the secret chats, the burner phone linked to a young woman in his daughter's orbit. This wasn't just about control over Lily. It was a whole secret life. The fortress had multiple rooms. Chloe left with clone drives and the burner phone's data. I spent the afternoon in a state of numb horror, reassembling the house to erase any trace. That night, Mark returned, tired but smug from a day of being visionary. He went straight to his study. I heard the familiar boot-up chime of his laptop. A long pause. He appeared in the kitchen doorway. Did anyone come to the house today? My blood turned to ice. What? No. Why? My laptop. It feels off. The fan kicked on differently when I booted up. He was staring at me, his gaze forensic. Maybe it's from the water incident the other night. I offered, turning back to the salad I was making. A short circuit or something. Should you get it checked? He didn't answer. He just watched me. The suspicion in the air was now a thick, toxic fog. Maybe, he said finally. He walked over, stood behind me. He placed his hands on my shoulders. His touch was heavy, possessive. You'd tell me if anything strange happened. Right. Sophomore, if anyone contacted you. We don't keep secrets from each other. It was a test, a threat. I leaned back slightly into his touch, a gesture that made my skin crawl. Of course not. It's just been a quiet day. Lily and I had a tea party with her stuffed animals. The inanity of the lie was its shield. He squeezed my shoulders, then let go. Good. I just want us to be safe. This world, it's full of people who don't understand a family like ours, who might try to put ideas in your head. The projection was breathtaking. He was the one putting ideas in Lily's head. Now he was preemptively accusing the outside world of doing it to me. Later, encrypted over our secure channel, Amanda's analysis was grim. The financials are a maze. but we're tracing the threads. The Cayman account is real. The crypto is real. He's been siphoning. The burner phone data is more immediate. Calls to that number. Brittany coincide with evenings he had late work or gym sessions. Texts are deleted, but recovery shows meet-up arrangements. We have dates, times. He's having an affair. The question felt absurd, almost trivial compared to the violation of our daughter. It's more leverage. Amanda said pragmatically. It shows duplicity, a pattern of deceit. It also might be a pressure point. But, Sophia, listen. The fact he sensed the laptop intrusion. He's paranoid. He's on high alert. The passive phase is over. He's going to move to secure his position. You need to be ready. Ready for what? For him to go on the offensive. He's going to try to discredit you, to isolate you further. The mask is going to slip. And when it does, it's going to get ugly. She was right. The digital trail had led us to the edge of a cliff. We had evidence of infidelity, financial fraud, and digital footprints of his manipulation. But we were still looking in from the outside. We had mapped the fortress walls, but we hadn't breached the inner sanctum where the real crimes lived. And the keeper of the fortress now knew someone was circling the walls. The next move, I knew, would not be mine. Mark, feeling threatened, would make it. The waiting was over. The war was about to begin. The change wasn't a storm, it was a glacier. Slow, deliberate, and crushing. Mark no longer bothered with the velvet glove. The probing suspicion hardened into a cold, strategic campaign. It started with my phone. We were having a rare, civil dinner. Lily was talking about a school project on planets. That sounds fascinating. Lilybug, Mark said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Then he turned to me. Speaking of projects, Sophia, can I borrow your phone for a sec? Mine's dead, and I need to check an address Ryan texted for the golf thing tomorrow. A simple request. Innocuous, but his hand was already outstretched. Palm up. A command, not a question. The air tightened. Sure, I said, my voice carefully casual. I unlocked it and handed it over, praying my secure email app was buried deep in a folder. He took it, his thumbs moving with purpose, not the hesitant taps of someone checking a text. He navigated to settings, then battery, studying the usage graph. His jaw tightened. You've been on your phone a lot today. Hun, 3 hours of screen time. What's so absorbing? My heart hammered. Oh, you know, Pinterest, recipes, design blogs, 3 hours of recipes. He raised an eyebrow, the sarcasm dripping. He opened my browser, clicked on history. I'd been meticulous about clearing it, but the sheer emptiness of it was its own damning evidence. That's odd. No history at all, like someone's been covering their tracks. Mark, what is this? I tried for indignation, but it came out thin. He ignored me, opening my App Store purchase history. You downloaded a secure, note-taking app last week. Cipher note. Fancy. What are you writing that needs encryption from your own husband? Lily had gone very still, her eyes wide, watching a tennis match of tension. It's for design ideas. Client mood boards can be confidential. I protested. The lie flimsy. Client. What client? He put the phone down with a soft, final click. You haven't had a client in 2 years. Sophia, you dropped your business to focus on us, on the family. He said the word like it was a sacred burden I was shirking. This secrecy, it's not like you. It's concerning. The gaslighting had evolved. It was no longer subtle suggestion. It was public indictment. He was laying the foundation, brick by brick, right in front of our daughter. Later that week, the financial vice tightened. I went to buy new sneakers for Lily at our usual boutique. My card was declined. I called the bank, flustered. The customer service rep was polite but firm. I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter. According to notes on the account, your purchasing privileges on the joint cards have been temporarily limited to grocery and household essentials only. Your husband, the primary account holder, requested it yesterday. He cited concerns about irregular spending patterns. I stood in the middle of the mall, the colorful storefronts blurring into a nauseating haze. Irregular spending. I buy groceries and clothes for my child. You'd need to discuss that with him. Ma'am, he authorized a separate monthly allowance to be transferred to your personal account. You should see it next week. An allowance. Like a child. Like a kept woman who had misbehaved. I drove home, my hands white on the wheel. He was in his study. I didn't knock. You limited my cards. He swiveled in his chair. The picture of calm reason. Sophia, we need to talk. I've been going over the accounts. Your spending has been erratic. Large cash withdrawals. Online purchases from unfamiliar sites. That cipher note app wasn't free. He steepled his fingers. Then there's the matter of your little organization project. I found billing records. You hired a data recovery specialist last week, Chloe Martinez. For what? Exactly. To recover recipes from an old tablet. He knew. He'd traced Chloe, or at least her invoice. The room tilted. I was trying to recover Lily's baby pictures from a corrupted drive. I stammered. Through a high-end digital forensics consultant. His laugh was short, humorless. Come on, Sophia, I'm not an idiot. This obsession with secrecy, with digging around, it's escalating. I'm worried about you. He stood up, walking around the desk, invading my space. His voice dropped to a therapist's gentle, condescending tone. I think you're struggling. The empty nest syndrome hitting early. Maybe. A lack of purpose. It's manifesting as paranoia. This fixation on me and Lily. It's not healthy. You're twisting everything. The cry burst out of me. I heard you, that night, talking to her about secrets, about making me sick. He didn't flinch. His eyes held a flicker of triumph. Finally, they seemed to say, the hysterical outburst. See, he said softly, sadly, what night? Sophia, what did you think you heard? I read her a story about a castle, a fortress against dragons. Was that it? Did you have a bad dream and confuse it with reality? He placed a hand on my arm. I think you need help. Real help. I've made an appointment for you with Dr. Evans. He's an excellent psychiatrist, specializes in anxiety and delusional thinking in high-achieving women. The audacity was a physical blow. He was constructing a cage with the bars labeled. Mental instability. If I fought, I was proving his point. If I complied, I was walking into a cell. I wrenched my arm away. I am not seeing your psychiatrist. Our psychiatrist. He corrected smoothly. For the health of our marriage. For Lily's stability. She needs a stable mother. Sophia. Not one who lurks outside doors and makes wild accusations. His gaze hardened. If you refuse to get help, if you continue down this path of trying to sabotage our family, you leave me no choice. I will have to take steps to protect Lily. Legally. Do you understand? The threat hung in the air. Cold and absolute. He wasn't just threatening divorce. He was threatening to paint me as an unfit, delusional mother and take my child. That night, the final act of his play unfolded. He came to bed late. I pretended to be asleep. He didn't touch me. Instead, in the darkness, he spoke, his voice a quiet, chilling monotone. You need to understand how this works. Sophia, I built this life, this house, the cars, the vacations, the private school. It's all on my balance sheet. My name is on everything that matters. Your little investigation. He chuckled, a dry, soulless sound. Even if you found something, who would believe you? The anxious, unemployed wife with a history of erratic behavior, seeing threats in bedtime stories. or the respected financier, pillar of the community, who only wants his wife to get the help she needs. He rolled onto his side, facing away. Go to sleep, Sophia, and in the morning, think very carefully about your next move, because if you fight me, you will lose. You will lose everything, and you will do it alone. The silence after he finished speaking was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. It was the sound of the mask hitting the floor. The charming, confident Mark was gone. In his place was the architect of the fortress, showing me the blueprints of my own destruction. He wasn't worried about being caught. He was confident the system, the money, the perception, all tools he controlled, would protect him. I lay there, not crying, not trembling. A strange, cold clarity settled over me. He was right about one thing. I had been naive. I'd been gathering evidence for a fair fight in a court of law. But he wasn't playing by those rules. He was playing a game of societal annihilation. Amanda's voice in my memory was a lifeline. When they go on the offensive, it gets ugly. You have to be uglier, and you have to be smarter. The scared wife was gone, buried under the glacier of his threats. The mother, the survivor, dug her way out. He wanted a psychiatric case. He wanted a custody battle he could win with financial bludgeoning. Fine, but first, I needed to make him believe his threats had worked. I needed him to feel secure, to grow complacent in his victory. Only then would he lower his guard. Only then could I strike at the heart of the fortress, not just at its walls. The performance had entered its final, most dangerous act. I had to convince the monster he had already won. The morning after the mask shattered, I became a ghost in my own skin. I moved through the house with a hollow efficiency, the shell of Sophia Carter performing her daily rituals. I made coffee, the rich aroma now smelling of betrayal. I packed Lily's lunch, each item a silent apology I couldn't voice. When Mark came down, crisp and victorious in his suit, I didn't meet his eyes. About yesterday, I began, my voice purposely small, frayed at the edges. I stared into my coffee mug as if reading tea leaves of defeat. You're right. He paused, mid-sip of his orange juice. About what? Exactly. The question was a trap, testing the depth of my surrender. About everything. I whispered, letting a tremor enter my voice. I haven't been myself. I'm so tired all the time. And paranoid. Maybe the stress of everything, of trying to be perfect. It's gotten to me. I finally looked up, allowing my eyes to glisten with unshed tears, tears of real rage, channeled into a performance of brokenness. The appointment with Dr. Evans. I'll go. His posture softened, not with empathy, but with the satisfaction of a chess master seeing checkmate. He walked over, cupping my chin. His thumb brushed my cheek, a gesture that now felt like a brand. I knew you'd see reason. Sophomore, it's for the best, for all of us. He kissed my forehead, the seal on our new, terrible contract. I'll have my assistant send you the details. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, the ghost vanished. I wiped my cheek, my expression hardening into cold resolve. I texted Amanda a single code word we'd agreed upon. Sierra, that meant, the direct threat has been made. Operation Compliance is active. 30 minutes later, I was in her office. This time, I didn't sit in the client chair. I paced. He's threatened to take Lily. He's cutting off my financial access and trying to stick me with a delusional diagnosis from a shrink he controls. I said, the words tumbling out in a flat. Furious stream. The evidence we have, the recordings, the financial trails, the burner phone, it's good. But is it a custody guarantee? Is it a lock for criminal charges? Amanda leaned back, steepling her fingers. No, and he knows it. The recordings show emotional manipulation, but a slick lawyer, which he will hire, will call it a father's close bond. The financials show concealment, but not necessarily illegal activity. Yet, the burner phone proves infidelity, which sucks for him in divorce court, but doesn't directly speak to his fitness as a parent in a system that still gives fathers the benefit of the doubt, especially wealthy, presentable ones. She met my gaze. He's playing a systemic game. We need to change the game. How? We need a two-pronged attack, legal and tactical. She pulled out a fresh legal pad. Prong 1. We file for legal separation and an emergency temporary restraining order based on the emotional harm to Lily. We use the recordings. We get a child psychologist to evaluate her based on her withdrawn behavior. We paint a picture of a father engaged in coercive control and parental alienation. The goal isn't to win the whole war tomorrow. It's to get you and Lily out of that house immediately and establish you as the primary, protective parent now. It shocks his system. And prong 2, I asked, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and thrilling clarity. Prong 2 is the sting. We make him believe his intimidation worked, that you're broken and retreating. Then, we give him enough rope to hang himself. She leaned forward. We need a confession. We need him to say, on record, exactly what he's doing and why. We need to catch him in the act of the manipulation, without him performing for an audience he knows is there. He'd never confess to me. Not now. He thinks I'm beaten. But he's still careful. Not to you, Amanda said, a sharp glint in her eye. To her, to Lily, or to someone he believes is an ally. She tapped the pad. You said he sensed the laptop intrusion. He's tech-savvy and paranoid. We can't just plan a bug he might find. We need something he'd never suspect. Lily's things. I breathed, the idea clicking into place. He'd never think to check her toys. Exactly. Something that transmits remotely, so we don't have to retrieve it. Something with a long battery life. And we need a catalyst. We need to get you out of the house for a significant period, to make him feel secure enough to let his guard down. The plan crystallized with brutal, beautiful simplicity. It was dangerous. It meant leaving Lily alone with him. The thought made bile rise in my throat. I can't leave her with him. I choked out. You have to, Amanda said, not unkindly, but with the steel of a general. It's the only way to get the evidence that will get her away from him for good. Right now, he's on his best behavior because you're a potential threat in the house. We need him to think the threat is gone. We need him to get comfortable being the monster again. I felt the weight of it, the horrific calculus of motherhood. To protect her, I had to momentarily abandon my post. For how long? A weekend? 2 nights? We need a solid, believable reason for you to be completely offline. I thought of the performance I'd started that morning. A retreat. A silent mindfulness retreat up in Big Sur. No phones. No contact. He'd love that. It fits his narrative of me being the one who needs fixing. Perfect. Amanda nodded. You pitch it as his idea paying off. You're seeking clarity, peace, on his recommendation. He'll eat it up. Meanwhile, I get my tech guy to modify one of Lily's stuffed animals, something with a charging port already, so we don't have to rip out seams. A beloved one he'd never question. Mr. Hops, I said immediately. Her old bunny. The ear is chewed. The fur is matted. She sleeps with it every night. It has a weird, hollow voice box from when she was a baby. It could be replaced. Good. We'll make it a transmitter, audio only, but high quality. Streams to a secure server. We'll get a child psychologist on standby to review anything we capture in real time, to guide us on when we have enough, and to intervene if things get acutely dangerous, and if he doesn't take the bait, if he's just a perfect father the whole time. Amanda gave a thin, humorless smile. A man like Mark, with the object of his control gone and his perceived victory fresh. He'll celebrate, he'll relax, and he'll want to reinforce his narrative with Lily. He'll talk. They always do. Their need for validation is their weakness. We spent the next hour drilling the details. The filing of the emergency order would happen after the retreat. As soon as we had the new evidence, we would have a safe house ready, a friend of Amanda's, a former client with a secure guest house. We would have a go bag packed for me and Lily, hidden in the trunk of my car. That night, I executed the first part of the play. As Mark scrolled through his tablet, I sat on the edge of the bed, wringing my hands, a gesture I'd practiced. Mark, about the doctor, I've been thinking, maybe you're right about the stress, the constant noise in my head. I took a shuddering breath. I saw an ad for a place, the Solitude Center in Big Sur, a 3-day silent mindfulness retreat. No devices, no talking, just being. I think it might help me reset, to be better, for us, for Lily. He looked up, his gaze assessing. I could see the gears turning. Is this genuine capitulation or a trick? The vulnerability I projected, the defeated wife seeking his prescribed cure, tipped the scales. A retreat. He mused, putting the tablet down. That's actually a very proactive idea. Sophia shows real insight. He smiled, the benevolent patriarch. I think it's an excellent plan. When is it? There's a spot this coming weekend. It's short notice, but book it, he said, decisively. My treat. Anything to help you find your center again. He came over, squeezed my shoulder. This is a good first step. I'm proud of you. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. I leaned into his touch, hiding my revulsion. Thank you for being patient with me. 2 days later, a .care package from my .worried mother arrived, a box of innocuous self-care items. Buried within was Mr. Hops, returned after a supposed deep clean and repair. The new voice box was slightly heavier, but only if you were looking for it. Lily, thrilled to have her companion back, good as new, didn't notice a thing. The night before my departure, I knelt by Lily's bed as she clutched the newly returned bunny. Mommy has to go away for 2 sleeps. Okay, to a quiet place to think. Her eyes, wide in the nightlight, filled with immediate fear. Why? Just to help my head feel less fuzzy. I whispered, stroking her hair, pouring every ounce of my love and promise into the touch. Daddy will be here, and Mr. Hops will be here, and I will be thinking of you every single second. And when I come back, everything will be better. I promise. It was the hardest promise I'd ever had to make, because its keeping depended on a monster's arrogance. She nodded, holding the bunny tighter. I kissed her forehead, my lips lingering, trying to imprint a shield on her skin. The next morning, Mark helped me load my small bag into the car. He looked relaxed, almost jovial. Have a transformative experience. Honey, we'll be just fine. He pulled me into a hug, his voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. Clear your mind. Let go of all those silly suspicions. Come back to us as yourself. I forced a shaky smile. I will. As I drove away, watching them grow smaller in the rearview mirror. Mark's arm around Lily's shoulders. A portrait of the devoted single dad. I didn't head for the coast. I drove to a bland hotel, 20 miles away, booked under the alias Amanda had provided. The room was my command center. On the desk, my laptop was open, connected to a secure VPN. On the screen, a simple audio interface waited. Silent, a single, red dot receiving. Light was dormant. I sat in the stiff chair, staring at the screen, my entire being focused into that hotel room, back through the miles, into my daughter's pink-walled bedroom. Mr. Hops sat on her pillow, his glassy eyes now a silent sentinel. The trap was set. The bait was taken. Now, we waited for the wolf to walk into the clearing. The ally was in place, and the plan was in motion. All that was left was the terrible, silent vigil. The hotel room was a sensory deprivation chamber. Beige walls, the low hum of the AC, the faint smell of industrial cleaner. Time lost all meaning, measured only in the frantic beating of my heart and the silent, mocking red light on my laptop screen. Receiving, but receiving nothing but the faint, digital hiss of an open line. For the first few hours, there was only mundane sound. The distant chime of the grandfather clock in the hall. The soft murmur of the TV from the living room. A sports channel. By the sound of it, the clatter of dishes. Mark's voice, cheerful and performative, asking Lily if she wanted pizza for dinner. Her small, monosyllabic replies. It was the performance he'd give if he knew he was being watched. My stomach twisted. What if he'd found the device? What if this was all for nothing? And I'd left her there for a hollow charade. I was clutching my phone, my thumb hovering over Amanda's number, ready to abort, to race home, when the tone of the evening shifted. The TV went silent. All right, Lilybug. Mark's voice came through clearly. Closer now. He must have entered her room. Pajamas on, teeth brushed. Let's have our special talk before bed. A long pause. Then, the soft rustle of bedding. Lily didn't speak. You're very quiet, Mark said, his voice losing its forced cheer, settling into that familiar, flat calm I'd heard through the door. Missing Mommy. A tiny, almost inaudible, She needs this time away. You know, he said, and I could picture him sitting on the edge of her bed, the way he had that first night, to fix the silly ideas in her head, the ideas that made her so suspicious and unhappy. We're helping her by being strong here without her. I pressed a fist against my mouth to stifle a sound. But I miss her, Lily whispered, the words thick with unshed tears. I know you do, but sometimes loving someone means letting them go so they can get better. The manipulation was so smooth, so poisonous. And you and I, we have something even more special. We don't need anyone else to understand us, do we? We have our fortress. Silence. Remember our game. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. The what-if game. What if Mommy decided she didn't want to live with us anymore? What would we do? My blood froze. On screen, a secondary window popped up, a secure chat with Amanda. Her message flashed. Psychologist is listening. This is coercive hypotheticals. Legally significant. Keep recording. Lily made a small, distressed sound. We'd be okay. Mark answered his own question, his voice soothing yet firm. Daddy would take care of you. We'd get a new house. Just for us. Maybe near the mountains. You'd have a pony. And we wouldn't have to worry about Mommy's moods anymore. Would you like that? A fresh start with just Daddy. He was painting a fantasy, using a child's desire for a pony to eclipse her need for her mother. It was psychological warfare. I want Mommy too. Lily managed, her voice trembling. Of course you do, he said, instantly backtracking, coating the threat in sugar. And she'll come back, but she'll be better, because we're being strong for her. Now, what's the most important rule of the fortress? A long hesitation. Then, Lily's voice, a robotic whisper. No telling. No telling what? Sweetheart, no telling. The secrets. No telling. What we talk about. Or the fortress falls down. And who gets hurt if the fortress falls? Another agonizing pause. Mommy gets sad. And she goes away. That's my good girl. I heard the bed creak. The sound of a kiss on a forehead. You're protecting her. You're so brave. Now, go to sleep. Daddy has some work to do. The footsteps receded. The door closed. For a long time, there was only the sound of Lily's quiet, hitching breaths as she cried herself to sleep, muffled against Mr. Hopp's. Each sob was a shard of glass in my soul. I was weeping too, silent tears of fury and despair soaking the collar of my shirt. I wanted to scream, to drive through the night, to smash down the door and tear him apart. Amanda's chat window pulsed again. We have enough for the TRO. More than enough. Coercive control, parental alienation, emotional abuse. The psychologist is drafting an affidavit now. Do you want to pull the plug? We can move tonight. I stared at the words. It was a lifeline, but it was only prong one of the plan. We had legal ammunition, but Mark would fight it. He'd call it misunderstood affection, my influence. We needed the confession. We needed prong two. I typed back, my fingers shaking. Not yet. He's just getting started. He thinks he's safe. He'll get sloppy. I spent a sleepless night listening to my daughter's restless sleep, my body humming with adrenaline and grief. The next day, Saturday, was quiet, too quiet. Mark took Lily to the zoo. The audio stream was a distant murmur of crowds and animal sounds. Useless. The inactivity was its own torture. Had he gotten what he wanted last night? Was that it? Then, Saturday evening, Lily was in the bath. I could hear the splash of water. Her soft humming, a tune I'd taught her. My heart ached. Suddenly, a new voice. Female, young, bright and giggly. Oh my God, this house is even more amazing than I pictured. My spine went rigid. I didn't recognize the voice. Glad you like it. Mark's voice replied. Smooth, confident, closer. They were in his study, adjacent to the master bath. The device was picking it up through the walls. She's in the bath. We've got maybe 20 minutes. A whole weekend to yourself. Huh. She finally left. The woman's voice was familiar now. The cadence, the tone. Brittany, the gymnastics coach. Let's just say she's finally getting the help she needs. Mark said, a dark amusement in his tone. Took some convincing. Had to put the fear of God into her about losing the kid. But she's compliant now, off at some silent retreat, contemplating her navel. A giggle. You're so bad. And the little one. She doesn't. Suspect. Lily. Mark's voice was dismissive. She's perfectly programmed. Thinks she's protecting her mommy by keeping our secrets. Kids are remarkably easy to mold if you understand their fear of abandonment. I was shaking, a full body tremble of pure, undiluted hatred. On the chat, Amanda wrote, "This is it. This is gold." He's admitting to intimidation and manipulation of a minor. But there was more. So, what's the long-term play? Mark. Brittany asked, her voice dropping to a more intimate murmur. You can't keep the wife and the girlfriend. The wife, he said, the word dripping with contempt, is a liability, an anxious, draining liability. But she's also the key to maintaining the image. For now, the plan is to let this mental instability narrative marinate. A few more episodes. Maybe she forgets to pick Lily up from school. Maybe she has a public meltdown at the club. Once it's established, I file for divorce. Full custody based on her unfitness. The prenup is ironclad, and I've moved enough assets offshore that the settlement will be a pittance. Then, once she's a distant, discredited memory, well, then there's room for something more. Substantial. He was outlining my annihilation with casual, chilling precision, financial ruin, social destruction, loss of my child. It was all a business plan to him. You've thought of everything. Brittany breathed. Impressed. I always do. That's why I'm where I am. Now, his voice changed, turning sly. Enough about my tedious domestic arrangements. You didn't come here to talk about my wife. There were sounds then. Movement. Low laughter. I ripped the headphones off. Physically ill. I didn't need to hear the rest. We had it. We had the confession. The admission of a calculated campaign. The proof of infidelity in the marital home while his child was in the bath. I fumbled for my phone. My vision blurred with tears of rage. I called Amanda. She answered on the first ring. I heard. The psychologist heard. We have everything we need and a whole lot more we didn't even hope for. It's over. Sophia, get me my daughter. I snarled, the words raw and guttural. Get her out of that house. Now, the emergency order is being signed electronically by the judge as we speak. I've alerted a supervised child protection officer. I'm texting you the address of the safe house. Go there now. Do not go home. We will bring Lily to you. It ends tonight. I looked at the audio interface. The red light still glowed. From the speakers, now tinny without the headphones, I could hear the faint, off-key sound of my daughter singing in her bath, innocent and unaware that just a wall away, her father was planning the destruction of her mother's life. The sting was over. The predator had walked straight into the trap, boasting of his own cleverness. We had the evidence. Now, it was time for the reckoning. The safe house was a modest, anonymous condo in a quiet Culver City complex, belonging to one of Amanda's former clients, a woman who'd survived a worse monster and had a spare key and a fierce sense of solidarity. I paced its beige-carpeted living room like a caged animal, my nerves raw live wires. Amanda's last text glowed on my phone. Judge signed. Officer en route. ETA 20 minutes. Stay put. Every second was an eternity, sculpted from panic. Was he hurting her right now? Had he discovered Mr. Hops? What if he fled with her? The catastrophic scenarios played on a loop behind my eyes. Next to me, in a folding chair he'd brought, sat a man named Derek. He was ex-LAPD, now private security, with a calm, mountain-like presence. Amanda had insisted, if he resists, you don't want to be alone. She'd said, Derek's mere existence was a promise of force, and I clung to it. My phone buzzed. Not a text, a call. Mark. My heart stopped. I showed the screen to Derek. He gave a single, grim nod. Answer. Keep him talking. By time. I swiped to answer, putting it on speaker. Mark. My voice was surprisingly steady. Sophia. His tone was light, casual. The victorious husband checking in. How's the serenity? Find your inner peace yet? In the background, I could hear the faint sounds of my home. A cartoon on TV. He was in the living room. With Lily. It's quiet, I said, forcing a breathy, exhausted quality into my voice. The performance wasn't over yet. How's my girl? Oh, she's perfect. We had a great day. Zoo. Ice cream. Just finished her bath. We're having a movie night. You know, it's amazing how smoothly things run when there's no tension in the air. The dig was casual. Cruel. That's good. I whispered. Give her a kiss for me. Of course. A pause. I could almost hear his smug smile. You just focus on getting better. Okay. Take all the time you need. We'll be here, holding down the fort. The word fort made my skin crawl. I will. Good night. Mark. Good night. Sophia. The call ended. Derek looked at me. He's complacent. That's good. 5 minutes later. My phone buzzed again, Amanda. They're 2 minutes out. Officer Perez and a social worker. I'm on my way to you. Do not move. I moved to the window, peering through the slats of the blinds at the empty parking lot. The urge to run, to drive there myself, was a physical ache. Then, I saw them, a black SUV with tinted windows and a generic sedan pulling up. 2 figures got out of the SUV, a uniformed woman and a man in a plain jacket, the social worker. They walked purposefully towards the building. The next 15 minutes were the longest of my life. I stared at my phone, willing it to ring. Derek sat perfectly still, a monument of readiness. Finally, it rang. Amanda, we have her, she said, and the 3 words unlocked the air in my lungs. He put up a verbal fight, tried to bluster about his rights, his lawyers, but Officer Perez was a brick wall. Served the TRO, explained the immediate removal was based on evidence of imminent emotional harm. He threatened to call the police, and Perez just said, Sir, I amped police. It was beautiful. Lily's in the car with Mrs. Alvarez, the social worker. She's scared but unharmed. We're bringing her to you. And him. My voice was a scrape. Furious. Spitting nails. But compliant for now. He knows a physical confrontation would look worse. He was told a formal hearing is set for Monday morning. He'll be lawyered up and swinging by then. But, Sophia, we have the recordings. We have the psychologist's affidavit. We have him dead to rights. When the doorbell rang, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Derek answered, filling the doorway, then stepped aside. There stood Lily, clutching a small backpack and Mr. Hops, her eyes wide and terrified. Behind her was a kind-faced woman, Mrs. Alvarez, and Amanda, her expression fierce with triumph. Mommy. The word was a sob. Lily dropped the backpack and flew into my arms. I sank to my knees, crushing her to me, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and her fear. I was crying. She was crying. Great, heaving sobs of relief and trauma. It's okay, baby. It's okay. You're safe. I've got you. I'm never letting you go again. I murmured into her hair, a litany of promise. Amanda gave us a moment. Then her lawyer voice cut through the emotion. Sophia, we don't have much time. Mark will be scheming. We need to prep for Monday. And she glanced at Lily, still clinging to me. There are things we need to discuss. Mrs. Alvarez gently coaxed Lily away, promising hot chocolate and cartoons in the other room. Derek took up a post by the front door. Amanda spread files on the dining table. First, the practicalities. The TRO grants you temporary sole physical and legal custody. He has no visitation rights until the hearing. He has to stay 100 yards away from you. Lily, her school, this location. He can't contact you. Any violation. He's arrested. He'll try to contact her through other means. I said, my mind racing. The school, already handled. I've spoken to the headmaster. They're locking down her records. Alerting security. Only you or Mrs. Alvarez can pick her up. With ID. She slid a document towards me. This is the petition for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and, more importantly, citing the evidence of his coercive control and emotional abuse of a child as grounds for sole permanent custody and a disproportionate division of assets. We're hitting him with everything, all at once. I scanned the document. De legalize ablur. What's the play for Monday? The play, Amanda said, a sharp glint in her eye, is shock and awe. We don't dribble out evidence. We drop the bomb. The judge will listen to the initial arguments. Then we request a private chamber's review of sensitive evidence pertaining to the child's welfare. We play the key clips. We have the psychologist on standby to testify. We bury him under the weight of his own words before he can spin a single lie. It was ruthless. It was perfect. And if he fights, if he brings up his concerns about my mental state, Amanda smirked. We have a counter for that. I've already engaged Dr. Chin, a forensic psychiatrist. She's reviewed the recordings and the sequence of events. She's prepared to testify that your actions, the investigation, the gathering of evidence, are not only rational, but demonstrate sound judgment and protective parenting in the face of gaslighting and covert abuse. His psychiatric evaluation ploy will be framed as part of the abuse pattern. For the first time in months, I felt a surge of something other than fear or rage. It was hope, sharp and fierce. The morning of the hearing was a blur of gray suits and fluorescent lights. The family court building was a monument to broken promises. Amanda, sleek in a navy power suit, was a pillar of calm beside me. Lily was with Mrs. Alvarez at the safe house. We saw Mark before he saw us. He stood at the end of the hall with a shark-like attorney in a $3,000 suit, talking in low, urgent tones. When he noticed me, his mask of confident patriarch slipped for a microsecond. In its place was a flash of pure, unadulterated hatred. Then it was gone, replaced by a look of wounded concern. He even took a step towards me, but his lawyer put a restraining hand on his arm. We entered the courtroom. It was smaller than I'd imagined, wood-paneled, intimidating in its bland authority. The judge, a weary-looking woman in her 60s named Judge Watkins, took the bench. The formalities were brief. Mark's lawyer, a man named Forsyth, launched first. Your Honor, my client, Mark Carter, is a devoted father and successful professional who is deeply concerned about the sudden, erratic actions of his wife. She has, based on delusional suspicions, abducted his daughter and obtained this draconian order. We believe Mrs. Carter is suffering from a paranoid episode, potentially exacerbated by the stress of being a homemaker, and is alienating a loving father from his child. We request the immediate dismissal of the TRO and the return of Lily to her primary home. It was the narrative, delivered with oily confidence. Judge Watkins turned to Amanda. Ms. Rossi. Amanda stood. Your Honor, if it pleases the court, the allegations just presented are not only false, they are a continuation of the exact pattern of psychological abuse and coercive control that necessitated the emergency removal of Lily Carter from her father's care. We have irrefutable evidence of Mr. Carter's systematic campaign to emotionally manipulate his daughter, alienate her from her mother, and his own admissions of planning to fabricate evidence of mental instability in Mrs. Carter to gain sole custody. We request an in-camera review of this evidence before any further arguments are heard. Forsyth scoffed. Your Honor, this is a fishing expedition, a desperate attempt to... I'll see the evidence. Judge Watkins interrupted, her voice firm. Counsel, in my chambers. Now, the three lawyers, Amanda, Forsyth, and a representative from Child Protective Services followed the judge out. Mark and I were left in the tense silence of the courtroom, separated by 20 feet of empty space. He stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. 20 minutes later, they returned. Judge Watkins's face was grim, her mouth a tight line. Forsyth looked pale, rattled. Amanda's expression was one of cold satisfaction. Judge Watkins took her seat. Mr. Carter, she began, her voice like ice. I have listened to audio recordings of you engaging in what can only be described as psychological torture of an 8-year-old child. I have heard you explicitly refer to programming her, to using her fear of abandonment to enforce secrecy, and to planning the deliberate destruction of your wife's reputation to gain custody. Mark opened his mouth. Your Honor, those recordings are out of context. My wife. Be silent, Mr. Carter. The judge snapped. I have also heard your conversation with an individual who is not your wife, in your marital home, while your child was present, in which you discuss your wife as a liability and outline a plan to financially ruin her and have her declared unfit. The temporary restraining order is not only continued, its terms are expanded. You will submit to a forensic psychological evaluation. You will have no contact, direct or indirect, with your daughter pending a full custody evaluation by a court-appointed specialist. You will immediately provide full financial disclosure, including all domestic and international accounts. Failure to comply will result in sanctions, including possible arrest. She turned her gaze to me. It wasn't warm, but it was fair. Mrs. Carter, the court recognizes the extraordinary steps you took to protect your child. Temporary sole custody is granted. A full custody hearing will be scheduled after the evaluations. She brought down her gavel. Next case. The sound was a thunderclap of finality. In the hallway, the facade crumbled completely. Forsyth was already hissing at Mark. You told me there was nothing. You idiot. Before storming off. Mark turned to me. his face a mask of twisted fury. He took a step forward, but Derek materialized from where he'd been waiting, placing his solid frame between us. This isn't over. Sophia, Mark spat, his voice low and venomous. You think you've won. You've got nothing. I'll drag this out for years. I'll spend every dollar I have to bury you. You'll be bankrupt and she'll be 18 by the time it's done. I looked at him, this stranger I'd loved, and felt nothing but a vast, cold emptiness. The fear was gone. Spend them, Mark, I said, my voice quiet but clear in the buzzing hallway. Spend every last cent on lawyers, because you're going to need them. And when you're done, you still won't see your daughter. You hear the recordings. The judge heard them. Every therapist, every evaluator from now until the end of time will hear them. You're not a father. You're a warden who lost his prisoner. He flinched as if struck. The hatred in his eyes was the only real thing he'd shown me in years. Without another word, he turned and strode away, his shoulders hunched against the collapse of his meticulously constructed world. Amanda touched my arm. Let's go get your daughter. Back at the safe house. I knelt before Lily. She looked from me to Amanda to Mrs. Alvarez, confusion and hope warring in her eyes. It's over, baby, I said, cupping her face. You don't have to see Daddy for a while. You don't have to keep any more secrets. You can tell me anything, anytime, and I will always, always believe you. The fortress is gone. For a long moment, she just stared. Then, a dam broke. She didn't just cry, she wailed, a deep, shuddering release of a terror so old it had become part of her bones. She collapsed into my arms, and I held her as the years of poison seeped out in those ragged sobs. The legal war was just beginning. The divorce, the asset fight, the custody battle, they would be long and ugly. But the reckoning was here. The truth was out. The man who lived in the shadows had been dragged into the light, and he had nowhere left to hide. I held my daughter, rocking her gently, and for the first time, I breathed the free air of a future he could no longer touch. The war wasn't over, but the first, most brutal battle was. We didn't return to the San Marino house. The very walls felt contaminated. Instead, with the temporary custody order as a shield and a restraining order as a sword, Amanda helped me secure an apartment lease in a secure building in Santa Monica. It was smaller, rented with funds from the emergency account she'd helped me squirrel away. It smelled of fresh paint and possibility, not lies and fear. The first night in the new apartment, Lily stood in the middle of the bare living room, clutching Mr. Hops. "Where's my bed?" she asked, her voice small. "It's coming tomorrow, sweetie," I said, kneeling beside her. "Tonight, we have a fun adventure. We're going to build a blanket fort and sleep in it, like pioneers." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "With all the pillows, every single one we have. We built a lopsided fortress of blankets and cushions. This one, I told her, was different. This one was just for fun. No secrets allowed. Inside, with a flashlight, we read stories about brave girls who sailed ships and solved mysteries." She fell asleep mid-sentence, her head in my lap, her breath finally even. The next morning, the real work began. Dr. Irene Chin, the forensic psychiatrist, came to the apartment. She wasn't the enemy in a leather chair Mark had chosen. She was an ally with a notepad and gentle eyes. Her sessions with me were validating. "What you experienced is called coercive control," she explained. "It's a pattern of domination. Your responses, the hypervigilance, the gathering of evidence, were not paranoia. They were survival. They were protective." Her sessions with Lily were quieter, conducted through play and drawing. After the third visit, Dr. Chin pulled me aside. "She's carrying a tremendous burden of responsibility." She believed, completely, that speaking up would destroy you and her family. "The guilt is profound, but she's resilient. The fact that she's starting to draw again is a very good sign. And she was. The first drawings were dark. A big, black scribble hovering over a small stick figure. Then, a week later, she drew a picture of our blanket fort. Then, one of me and her holding hands. No black scribble. The legal proceedings were a cold, bureaucratic grind. Mark, through Forsyth, fought every inch. They contested the validity of the recordings, calling them an illegal invasion of privacy. They demanded a new psychological evaluation for me, claiming the stress of the separation had caused a break. They dragged their feet on the financial disclosures, producing a maze of documents that showed a fraction of what we knew existed. It's a delay tactic, Amanda said, spreading papers across my new, second-hand dining table. He's trying to drain you financially and emotionally. Standard playbook. What's our move? I asked. I was no longer the hesitant wife. I was a student of this new, brutal language. Our move is to be a bulldozer, Amanda said, a ruthless smile on her face. We don't play his games. We subpoena everything. The offshore bank records from the Caymans, the crypto wallet transactions, the phone records from the burner linked to Brittany. We depose his business partners. We show the court that not only is he an emotional predator, he's a financial fraud who's been looting marital assets. We make it so expensive and embarrassing for him to fight that settling becomes his only option. We did. The discovery process was brutal. Mark's facade of the polished financier cracked under scrutiny. The offshore tax strategy was revealed as a series of shell companies funneling money away from our joint holdings. Texts with Brittany, recovered from her phone by a subpoena, weren't just salacious. They contained his boasts about handling the wife situation and his plans for a new life fund. The pressure mounted. Forsyth's letters grew less blustery, more conciliatory. They offered a settlement, a modest lump sum, shared custody. Amanda slid the offer across the table to me. It's an insult, but it's also a sign he's feeling the heat. He wants this to go away. I didn't hesitate. No. Full custody. Supervised visitation only. After a full psych evaluation, HEPIS 4. And 50% of the marital assets, including the value of the hidden funds as calculated by our forensic accountant. Not a penny less. Amanda grinned. That's my girl. The final custody hearing was less a dramatic showdown and more a surgical dissection. Mark sat at his table, looking diminished. The swagger was gone, replaced by a pinched, defensive posture. His new narrative was one of a misunderstood father who had made mistakes in his marriage, but loved his daughter. It fell flat. Our evidence was presented not as a shocking reveal, but as a matter-of-fact timeline of abuse and concealment. The judge, a different one this time, but no less stern, listened to the clips of Mark's whispered manipulations, reviewed the financial schematics, and read the psychologist's reports on Lily's improvement in my care. When it was over, the ruling was clear: primary physical and legal custody to me. Mark was granted supervised visitation for hours twice a month at a professional family center, contingent on his completion of a mandated parenting program focused on emotional boundaries. The family home was to be sold, with the proceeds split after the hidden assets were added back into the marital pot. He was also ordered to pay a significant portion of my legal fees. He didn't look at me as the judgment was read. He stared straight ahead, a man watching his own blueprint for a perfect life be officially declared a condemned building. Outside the courtroom, Amanda squeezed my arm. It's done. He can appeal, but he won't win. The record is too clear. I felt no surge of victory, only a deep, weary relief. It was over. 6 months later, the Santa Monica apartment was now a home. Lily's drawings covered the refrigerator, sunflowers, our blanket fort, a smiling stick figure family of 2. She was in a new school, had made a friend named Chloe, and was talking about trying out for the school play. I stood at the counter, pouring 2 glasses of iced tea. Amanda was coming over, not for a legal strategy session, but for dinner. My phone buzzed with a calendar alert. Lily, art therapy, 4 p.m., another. An hour later, client call, Thompson remodel, I was no longer Sophia Carter. Homemaker, I was Sophia Carter. Principal designer of new chapter interiors. The business was small, mostly referrals from Amanda's network of survivors. But it was mine. It paid the bills. More importantly, it filled me with a purpose that wasn't tied to someone else's narrative. The doorbell rang. It was Amanda, holding a bottle of wine and a large, flat package wrapped in craft paper. For the new office, she said, winking. After we ate, after Lily had shown Amanda her latest masterpiece and gone to bed, we sat on the small balcony overlooking the distant glitter of the ocean. The air was cool, salt-tinged. How's the financial disentanglement? Amanda asked, sipping her wine. Finalized last week. I said, the house sold. The offshore funds were traced and included. It's not the fortune he hid, but it's enough. A cushion. College fund for Lily. Seed money for the business. And him. I took a slow breath. He takes his supervised visits. According to the center's reports, he's on his best behavior. Polite. Distant. Lily says it's weird but not scary. She draws through most of it. I paused. His company found out about the improper financial transfers during discovery. He wasn't fired, but he was sidelined, moved to a non-client-facing role. I hear, through the grapevine, he's dating the yoga instructor from his club. Brittany, it seems, didn't like the lack of a future, substantial enough. Amanda snorted. Shocking. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. You know, she said, when you first walked into my office, you were a ghost, a shell of a person holding onto a single, terrifying truth. Look at you now. I didn't feel like a ghost anymore. I felt solid, scars and all. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have, she said firmly. It would have been harder, messier, but you would have found a way. That's what they never count on. These architects of fortresses, they think they're building walls to keep us in. They don't realize they're just giving us something to break out of. I thought of Lily, sleeping safely in her bed, in a room with a door that was never locked. I thought of the design schematics waiting on my desk. I thought of the simple, profound peace of a quiet evening with a friend. I used to think that night, hearing him in her room, was the worst moment of my life. I said, my voice quiet in the dark. But it wasn't. It was the moment I woke up, the moment the lights came on. Amanda raised her glass. To the lights staying on. I clinked my glass against hers. To the lights. Later, after Amanda left, I unwrapped the package she'd brought. It was a framed print, not a generic motivational poster, but a beautiful, abstract watercolor in shades of gold and deep blue. At the bottom, in elegant script, it read, "The strongest foundations are built by those who know how to rebuild." I hung it on the wall opposite my desk, where I would see it every day. From Lily's room, I heard a soft murmur. I peeked in. She was asleep, one arm thrown over Mr. Hops. The old bunny, his secret mission long over, was just a toy again, a beloved, normal toy. I walked to the large window in the living room, looking out at the city lights, a constellation of other lives, other stories. The darkness beyond was no longer a thing to be feared. It was just the night, and I was no longer lost in it. I was a point of light within it, steady and sure. The dawn had come, not as a single, brilliant event, but as a gradual, persistent brightening. It was the light of truth, of safety, of a quiet kitchen in the morning, of a child's laugh that wasn't tinged with fear. It was the light of a life reclaimed, piece by broken piece. and assembled into something new, something stronger. It was my light, and I would never let anyone dim it again. The email notification popped up on my screen with a soft ping, slicing through the focused quiet of my home office. The subject line was starkly professional. Final divorce decree settlement agreement. For your records. My breath hitched for a second, a phantom reflex. Then, a calm I hadn't known a year ago settled over me. I didn't open it immediately. I finished sketching the elevation for the Thompson family sunroom, the lines flowing smoothly from my pencil. This, my work, was my present. That email was just the official period on a sentence that had already been written. Later, with a cup of tea in hand, I clicked it open. The legalese was dense, but the key points were burned into my memory from 1,000 discussions with Amanda. The dissolution of marriage was granted. The financial settlement, a number that represented security, not vengeance, was finalized, and the custody order was made permanent. Mark's supervised visits would continue, subject to yearly review, until Lily turned 18. There was no covering letter from him, no final flourish of bitterness, just a digital stamp from the Los Angeles County Superior Court. It was over, truly, completely over. That evening, I sat with Lily on our small balcony, the one with the fairy lights she'd helped string. I got some official paperwork today, I said, keeping my voice casual. The divorce is all finished. She looked up from the chapter book she was reading, her brow furrowed in a way that was so achingly mature. Does that mean things change? No, honey. It just means the rules we've been living by. You living here with me. The visits with your dad at the center, those are the official rules now. Forever. No more court dates. No more lawyers. She absorbed this, then nodded slowly. So it's just done. It's done. She thought for a moment. Good, she said, simply, and went back to her book. That single, unburdened word was the greatest victory of all. A few days later, I had my final session with Dr. Chin. It was less of a therapy session and more of a debrief. How does it feel? She asked. Her notepad closed on her lap, like closing a very heavy, very ugly book. I said, and realizing I have a whole empty shelf for new ones. And anxiety, the hypervigilance. It's a whisper now, not a scream. I checked the locks once, not 3 times. When Lily is quiet in her room, I assume she's reading, not bracing. I smiled, a real one. I sleep through the night. That's called peace. Sophia, Dr. Chin said, you've earned it. The peace was tested, as it always is, but not in the ways I feared. It was tested by the normal, beautiful chaos of building a new life. My business, New Chapter Interiors, took on a life of its own, a feature in a local design blog on reinventing spaces with intention, led to a steady stream of clients. They were mostly women, often at their own crossroads, divorce, empty nesters, new beginnings. They didn't just want a new color palette. They wanted to reclaim a space as their own. I understood them in my bones. One client, a Fearside Software CEO named Naomi, who was converting her ex's soulless media cave into a vibrant art studio, looked around at the finished space, splattered drop cloths, jars of brushes, sunlight streaming in, and said, you know, Sophia, you don't just design rooms. You design exits from old stories. It became my unofficial tagline. The past wasn't gone. It echoed sometimes, in the flinch of a client when her husband's name was mentioned, in the way I'd sometimes catch Lily watching a happy family on TV with a quiet, thoughtful expression. We were both healing, but the scars were part of the landscape now. Mark became a distant, managed fact of life, like a quarterly tax payment. His supervised visits continued, clinical and brief. Lily's reports were monosyllabic but neutral, that it was fine. We played checkers. The family center's reports noted he was DOT compliant, but emotionally disengaged. He had, it seemed, accepted the boundaries of his diminished role. Rumor had it he'd moved to a smaller condo in a less prestigious zip code. The yacht and the pony fantasies had died with his secrets. One afternoon, Amanda came over, not as my lawyer, but as my friend, to help me assemble a notoriously tricky Swedish bookcase. We were knee-deep in particle board and incomprehensible pictograms when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but with a 310 area code. Sophia Carter speaking. Ms. Carter, this is Evelyn Grant, principal at Ocean View Elementary. My heart did a familiar, nervous lurch. Nothing's wrong, she quickly added, hearing my silence. Quite the opposite. I'm calling because Lily has been nominated by her teacher for our Rising Star Award. It's for a student who has shown exceptional personal growth and resilience. We'd love for you to come to the small ceremony next Friday. I put the phone down, my eyes stinging. Amanda looked up from a bracket she was wrestling with. Trouble. I shook my head, unable to speak for a moment. No, the opposite. Lily. She got an award. For resilience. Amanda put down the screwdriver, her face softening. Well, I'll be damned. The kid's a rock star. She raised her bottle of sparkling water to Lily and to her mom, who taught her how to be one. The ceremony was held in the sun-drenched school auditorium. Lily, wearing a dress she'd picked out herself, stripes and polka dots, a triumphant clash, sat with her class, squirming with a nervous excitement that was entirely, wonderfully normal. When her name was called, she walked up to the principal, not with her old, careful steps, but with a straight back and a shy smile. Lily Carter, Principal Grant said, has shown us that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about finding your voice even when you are. We are so proud of the compassionate, creative, and strong young person you are becoming. As Lily took the certificate, her eyes scanned the small crowd and found mine. She didn't just smile, she beamed. It was a smile unshadowed by fear, a smile that belonged entirely to her. In that moment, every sleepless night, every moment of terror, every calculated risk was worth it. Afterwards, as we walked to the car, her small hand in mine, she swung the certificate in her other hand. Mom, yes, superstar, can we get ice cream? To celebrate, I laughed. The sound light and free. We can get the biggest, messiest sundaes they have. That night, after the sugar high had worn off and she was asleep, I stood in the doorway of her room. The award was proudly taped to her wall, next to a drawing she'd made that week. It was a picture of two figures, one tall, one short, standing on a hill under a huge, yellow sun. There were no black scribbles, no lurking shadows, just bright, bold, confident crayon strokes. I thought of the email, the legal end of a war. I thought of the award, the beginning of a new story. I thought of the bookcase, finally upright and holding our books in the other room. The fortress was gone, dismantled not by a single act of destruction, but by the daily, deliberate work of building something better in its place. We had built a home, not on a foundation of secrets and fear, but on one of truth, however hard won, and a love that had proven itself fireproof. The midnight shadow had not just been banished. It had been replaced by a dawn we had chosen for ourselves, hour by hour, day by day, and it was, finally and irrevocably, ours.